This morning, talking with John Williams, not the famed film composer, local farmer John Williams. John, good to see you.
Good morning.
And you don't get that joke ever, do you?
I've gotten it since I was about 6. So, yeah.
You're with Red Crib Acres. What is Red Crib Acres?
So, Red Crib Acres is my personal farming endeavor. I started it a couple years ago, mainly focusing on apple trees that my family planted about 15 years ago, and also growing sorghum or broom corn and some popcorn as well on my family's land up near Sibley, Illinois.
And is that how you got into doing this? I mean, it's a family business, basically?
Not really. Okay. I sort of was, as a kid, inspired to farm because that's where generations ago what my family did. Mm-hmm. But my parents' generation hasn't farmed. They just sort of inherited the land and then kept it in farmland. Mm-hmm. And so I sort of sparked my interest in farming both, when I was a kid, and then it sort of went away as I went to college and stuff. And then in college, I took an urban agriculture class. Mm-hmm. And then once I decided a few years out of college that I wanted a career change, I decided farming would be a good thing to try out, and it's worked for me.
So they had the land; it just wasn't being used for farming. Is that right? Or
they rented it out to your conventional corn, soybean, wheat farmer, mm-hmm. And just sort of for cash crop. And right. I've taken over a very small portion of it mm-hmm. for my own endeavors.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what got you interested in doing, this particular, like you said, apples and sorghum, stuff like that? What got you into just growing those?
I would have to blame my dad.
Okay.
A lot of that interest, when I was a teen, we planted about a 25-tree orchard at the farm, a small acreage, quarter acre, I think, with his initiative. It was his initiative to do it. And then when I was just getting into farming, he, gave me some leftover broom corn seed and said, hey, plant this in your little garden and have fun. And then I sort of found a good niche to market the sorghum.
Mm-hmm. So what does, broom corn, sorghum, we're familiar with those. We hear about the Broom Corn Festival. What is it used for? What is sorghum used for? People hear those names. Where will they find them?
So sorghum has many uses. You can crush the stalk and make syrup with it. You can use it as forage food for your livestock. But the purpose I'm mainly using it for at this moment is selling it to local flower farmers like Delight Flower Farm or Old Town Flowers for fall decorations in their bouquets, because it's a nice color. It stores very well. You just sort of put it in that bouquet and it's never going to go bad, really. And they've really seemed to like that, having that fall option to add some color to their bouquets when in the season where they're sort of coming limited on what they have available.
John Williams with Red Crib Acres. We're talking with him this morning. And you grow apples, you grow the sorghum. Tell me, as far as apples go, we eat an apple, we see the seeds. Can you grow apple trees from those seeds? I mean, how does that process work? I mean,
so you're more than welcome to grow apple trees from apple seeds. Uh-huh. There's a risk of you have no idea what type of tree, if it's going to be any good worthwhile apple from a seed, because it cross-pollinates with all the trees around it, all the apple trees around it. So the traditional way to keep a gala apple, to plant a new gala apple tree is to graft, which you then pick a root stock for the size of tree you want to grow, and disease resistance as well with that root stock, and then you basically graft it to a piece of wood from an older tree. Mm-hmm. And those, over time, will heal together, and then you get yourself a new apple tree that's true to type to, whatever tree that piece of scion wood came off of.
How long does it take from when you initially plant it till you're able to pick something? How long does that take?
So that's, again, sort of dependent on the root stock. Mm-hmm. a traditional tree grows to be 25, 30 feet tall, and that may take 15 years before it's really producing a good crop of apples. The way that things are going now in the apple industry is for high density orchards, which you grow a tree that maybe maxes out at 8 foot tall, and you get production out of it in maybe 3 to 5 years. But you're also planting 1,400 trees in an acre, and it looks more like a vineyard than it does a traditional orchard.
Sure. And we're in August. Are we getting towards harvest time for it? I mean, is right now about the best time as far as harvest goes?
So we're just getting into it. The first 3-4 varieties have come off the tree. We're getting into that late summer, early fall when some really good varieties start coming on really hard. In the next week or so, I'll be picking a lot of galas and maybe some smokehouse and some ginger gold, things like that. Some late summer, early fall varieties that are really quality apples, and then it goes all through till there's snow on the ground.
Yeah. You mentioning some of these varieties, we all know, Red Delicious or the grainy apples or whatever. Sounds like you're growing some varieties that are a bit different than what everybody is, used to bringing to their teacher in the morning.
Yeah. So in not only my orchard or the orchard that my parents planted, but the former Wolfe Orchard just outside of Monticello that I took over management this past winter. There's probably in total 40, 45 varieties of apples. Many of those are heirloom varieties that, while there is some resurgent in heirloom varieties in grocery stores, you can certainly find more varieties of apples now than you could 5-10 years ago in a standard grocery store. There's still definitely some varieties that you won't find in a grocery store, be it because they don't ship well or they don't store terribly great, but that doesn't mean that they don't have some great taste or they're really great for cooking or other uses. So
there is a depending on the variety, a lifespan or shelf life, so to speak, where you could pick one. It's I guess what's the longevity? I mean, can it be anywhere from a week to a couple months? I mean, does it really just depend on the variety as how long they are the best?
Yeah. So there's a couple different factors. You have how well it holds on the tree. Some varieties hold to the tree better when they're ripe, and some decide once they're ripe they're going to hit the orchard floor. So then you're sort of fighting to try to get to it as quick as possible. And then your after harvest storage, whether you're just keeping it at room temperature or you're cooling it down, that can affect storage life. But then, variety, there's some varieties that, are going to be good this week and 2 weeks from now aren't really going to be good either in storage or on the tree. And then there's some that you can store for 6 to 10 months with little problem.
Are you looking at maybe adding any varieties as you go along, or maybe discontinuing a variety to make room for a different one? Or
so my hope is to continue to plant more trees, and I will certainly find some varieties that I'm going to want to grow that aren't being grown right now. But what I'm looking more at the moment, because I have such a good selection of trees at the former Wolfe Orchard, is to find those trees that are really good and grow more of that. There's some, there's a famous apple tree in my family's orchard that there's only one, and I wish there was 100 of them because it's such a good apple. So it's sort of looking for those that are limited in scope at the moment and expanding that.
So tell me about Central Illinois Farm Beginnings. What is that program?
So it's a farm education program through the Land Connection that I took in between the 2015 and 2016 growing seasons. And it's a class that at the time when I took it was each weekend, every Saturday was a day-long class, mainly focusing on business, farm business side of things, of how to keep your books straight, how to build a business plan, things like that. And at the culmination of that, you find a mentor. That's how I found Ron and Hope Wolfe of Wolfe Orchard. And then you mentor them for that next season. And that's definitely the reason I have such a good connection with Ron and Hope, and why they've trusted me with taking care of their trees after they've closed down their orchard business.
Where can people find, the apples that you're making? Where do we find them around town?
So I have a day job, so I I can't really find the time to sell at farmers markets or at the orchards. So I'm mainly for this season focusing on selling to local grocers, selling to chefs and other restaurants and bakeries and things like that. So, while you may find my fresh apple at the grocery store, Common Ground Food Co-op's going to be a pretty big purchaser of my apples. You may also find my apples in, some baked goods at some other, bakery around town.
Do you hope to get to a point where maybe you're able to go to the farmers markets around town or anything like that, or is it right now, like say day job doing this? This is fine now.
I mean, this is fine for the next few seasons,
Sure.
but I love working farmers markets. It's a good recharge of getting to meet the customer and getting to see people excited about what you're growing. So at some point, I would definitely be selling at the farmers market.
John Williams with Red Crib Acres. Where is that located at?
So it's in two locations.
Sure.
I grow the sorghum and a small amount of the apples at my family's farm up outside of Sibley, Illinois, 45 minutes north of here. And then a majority of the apple trees are just outside of Monticello at the former Wolfe Orchard.
Okay. All right. John Williams, thanks for coming in today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.